Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guest. This is my third speech, and I'm supposed to not to be using notes. It's going to be difficult because I drafted a note and I can't memorize it. So I'll just say whatever is in my mind. Actually, before I was scheduled to make a speech. I had an argument, a sort of argument, a conversation with an African American, and he was saying that African Americans are the real Jews, and they don't come from Africa, but rather Israel. To be frank with you, this is one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my entire life. Because according to what I've learned way back in Africa, and from what I've also learned in books and documentaries, I don't think that was true. So I decided, when I was scheduled to make a speech, I decided to make a speech on that, Africans in America. Actually, the origins of slavery in America is not known. And there are so many theories that have proposed to explain the slave trade. So all we know that is like it was largely tied to the European colonies' labor, because when European settlers came to North America, they had some sugar plantations and tobacco, especially, mostly tobacco. So they needed more labor. And these lands were operated by the French, Great Britain, Dutch, and Spain. So slavery in America started in the earlier 17th century, that is 1619, when a Dutch ship brought 20 Africans to Jamestown. That was in Virginia, I think so. And new European settlers saw that Africans slaves were quite cheaper than the indentured servants, who were mostly poorer Europeans that settled in North America. So as the first slaves came, slavery spread all over the United States. And as you can see on the map, here is all of these points in the African continent are slave spots. And these are the different routes. Some went to Europe, and they were spread all over the American continent, not only in North America. As at now, it's very difficult to estimate how many slaves were taken from Africa. But according to researchers, up to in only the 18th century, it's estimated to 6 to 7 million people that were taken. But why were the slaves African? Well, one possible answer is that when the European settlers came to North America, they first used Native Americans as the first slaves. But according to researchers, they were not fit enough, and most of them were dying. So they saw that in Africans, their immune system was very strong. According to historians, they say that their immune system were very strong. So the slaves in North America, in Northern America, they stayed, they had a far longer life period than those in Southern America. Why? Because those in Southern America had poorer housing, and they did not live under better conditions. So they died earlier. They died earlier. So only a fraction of, in the Northern America, it's just only 5% of the slaves that went there. The other ones were spread all over. But the major countries that in Africa that were affected by the slave trade are those around the coast. As you can see, my country is even included. According to historians, like 337,000 slaves were taken from Ivory Coast, my country, and brought some to the United States and all over the world. So they were spread from the Senegambia up to West Central Africa. I have another slide that shows better the main slave spots from St. Louis in Senegal up to Angola. And the different ports were run by different European countries, mainly France, Dutch, Portuguese, Danish, and I think Spain, but I can see Spain on the map. As I just highlighted this to show where I come from. This is in Ivory Coast, and this is in Ghana, and Ouida is in Benin. Just to show this and these are my references. I just wanted to share this with you. Thank you.